listening to From the Pink Seats podcast of the State of Louisville Podcast Network. Now, here's your hosts, Jacob Lane, Matt McGavin, and Vince LoCoco.
5-0 football. That's what we do around here. I love how you are looking at me like you have no idea what I'm talking about when I say 5-0. Louisville football is 5-0 heading into week 6 of the college football season. The first time since 2013, which was a great year, if I do say so myself. Welcome into From the Pink Seats podcast. Jacob Lane, Matt McGavin, Vince LoCoco. We've got a lot to dive into tonight as Louisville is coming off of a massive victory over NC State, ranked for the first time in some time. I don't have the official year on that. We'll get our researchers to tell me when that was.
2020.
At some point in the show. There you go. 2020. Last time. Hey, Vince was on staff then, man.
Hey, you're welcome.
Hey, yeah.
You're welcome. I see a common denominator here.
That's right, man. That's right. But
and it's not Scott Satterfield.
Yeah. BYU, man. That's all I can say. I've watched a little bit of that game.
This is the one and only time I
Louisville.
stayed up to watch the entirety of a BYU football game.
I watched that
Start
game.
to finish,
It
bro.
was
And
interesting.
I paid for it the next morning. I don't know how you felt, Matt. I was like, fuck that. I'm never doing that again.
I felt awful.
Yeah, and they got the Scott Satterfield special against BYU, that's for sure. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about a 5-0 football team coming off of a victory, heading into the arguably one of the biggest games in recent memory, the biggest game on the front half of the schedule. We'll see what happens in the back half. Miami looks pretty damn good. And I hate to say it, man, but Kentucky also looks pretty good. We'll see what that looks like post-Florida as they head into Georgia this weekend. But for the Cards, we've got a lot to dive into the game. We've got a new edition of Vince's Game Notes. We're going to talk about the action that we saw, some of the struggles, particularly at the quarterback position. Talk about the great defense and the effort we saw out there, and ultimately what won the game. Three-phase football. We love that around here. Three-phase football. That's what we do, right? You need the offense,
Complementary
defense,
football.
Bingo. We love it. We need all three phases to be good at what we do around here. And that's what happened this weekend. And so we're going to dive into all of that. We thank you guys again for tuning into the show, supporting us each week. If you're not subscribed already, be sure that you do that. Rate and review From the Pink Seats podcast anywhere that you get your podcast from. Follow us on Twitter, on X, whatever you want to call it these days, at Pink Seats Pod, at the State of Lou, and at U of L Reporters, where you can find the work of Matt McGavin. Yes, Vince, welcome in.
Do people actually call it X?
No.
Like, I've only ever just
No.
been.
No,
Yeah.
it's the most expensive waste of rebrand time ever. I mean, typically the whole point of a rebrand is so that people will stop calling your business what it was before. If you're changing your name, like you do marketing and advertising, we got a new name.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
It is literally still twitter.com. Okay. Let's not, it is Twitter and will be until it will come back as Twitter. Like eventually he's going to sell this. He's going to get bored once the election ends. We'll be right back into this being owned by the people that want Twitter to be great. And it won't be X anymore, and it won't be a waste of time and space.
Yeah, it'll be
And we'll
XXX.
stop. Yeah, we don't know. Well, hey, now, don't search that in your browser. We definitely do not encourage that. We don't know what to call it still. I mean, Twitter, X, we never know. But follow us there, though. Regardless of what you call it, follow us.
Yes.
All three great follows. Let's dive into this a little bit. Of course, State of Louisville Podcast Network. I didn't plug that. Make sure you check out all the great shows on the network. We're getting into the peak of sports season where Matt's going to look old and tired, and the podcast network is going to have like 18 new shows a week. So definitely stay tuned to all of those. And again, we thank you guys so much for listening, supporting the show. 5-0
I look
football.
old and
We love
tired
it.
right now.
You do. We all do. We all do. Except for Vince, man. Vince, you're looking good. I don't know if it's the beard and hat combo.
Getting ready to
I
go
don't know if
work
it's
out.
the Reggie
Monday.
Bonifant shirt.
Like,
It looks good, man.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, as we get into it, we'll get into why I'm wearing the black one, not the white one, later on in the episode. So
That's right. That's right. Well,
I figure
people
my
are
mom probably knows
jumping
why
over
I have
to
black
this-
on rather than white.
Yeah, most people at this point are jumping over having heard from Reggie Bonifant, and that was an absolutely great episode. I love talking to Reggie. It's been far too long, and it's great that he's going to be in the building for the game on Saturday. They really need that. But let's just jump right into NC State. General overview of this game. It was not Louisville's best game by any means, especially at the quarterback position. I think that's where a lot of the conversation starts and ends in this game, and it's a completely different game without some of the struggles. And I feel vindicated in a way that NC State was. Don't get me wrong, right? Louisville didn't blow them out. This was not a game in which you can really beat your chest and say you were the dominant opponent by any means, but I told you all that I didn't think NC State was that good. And outside of Peyton Wilson for NC State's defense, who is just electric, he is so much fun to watch.
He's really good.
They're not that good. Like, they're just not. Their quarterback has since been benched. If you're a 6-year quarterback getting benched, you should have left college several years ago. Like, this whole extra year thing doesn't always work out for everybody. Brennan Armstrong is a great example of that. And this game, Louisville and NC State both went back and forth with shooting themselves in the foot, but Louisville really had so many opportunities to put this game out of reach, and they just never could. But when you look at the numbers, it is what it is. A W is a W. They walk away 13-10 thanks to a big field goal by Brock Travelstead. How about a school record for Brock Travelstead? I mean, that's impressive to kick a school record. Yeah,
that was
man.
A school record, yeah.
Yards.
53-yarder.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have too many Justin Tucker, Jake Elliott's in college football kicking 55, 60-yard field goals. You know what I mean? Like, that just doesn't happen.
Is he still the punt guy as well? Did he get the punt penalty?
Yeah, he's still the punt guy, yeah.
That's pretty sick. That's a hell of a day for if you're a special teams guy right there.
I mean, yeah. he's Travis Hunter on special teams. So, like, let's put some respect on Brock Travel Leg. Like, that's just the way it goes, man.
Legatron.
See, I don't know, man. I think we need to talk about the nickname.
Too many people have the nickname Legatron.
Yeah, Legatron is a very common.
No.
It's like the
That's what I was told
variations
to
of
call
Mamba.
multiple
White
years
Mamba, Black Mamba, Vanilla Mamba, Ginger Mamba. We've seen so many of these Mamba nicknames. You've never Google it. Like, it's real. And that's what we're doing with Legatron. So Brock needs a creative name.
No, Brock, you cannot come up with your own nickname.
No,
Nope.
yeah, Brock.
No.
A really solid victory in how they are able to bounce back, been down 10-0 at halftime. And we'll talk about specifics and all of this again. New Vince's game notes coming up, and we're going to talk through some of the logistics through the Sack King update as well. But I felt like two things were on display here. One was tackling, specifically in the run game. That's for sure. We're going to get into it in a second. The second is the leadership of this football team. Like, I know that those videos are meant from a social media standpoint, like the card tape, the post-game reactions. Those are meant to be marketing and fan engagement tools, but you get a glimpse from time to time. You know, obviously there's a lot of red tape. They're not just putting anything out there, but you get to see some of the moments. And for me, I respect Stephen Herron so much more after this weekend. Jack Plummer as well. I know he didn't play well, but the leadership qualities are there for this team. A lot of fun stuff. Let's go ahead. Let's jump into Vince. Rolling into Vince's game notes. What do we got? NC State 13-10, 5-0 football. Let's do it.
I thought it was perfect from start to finish. Nothing to talk about. No notes.
Nope.
Nothing. Great game. No.
They won 66-0 in
Yeah,
technicality.
right.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously,
Perfect.
Jacob, like you said, it starts with Jack. The main thing I noticed with Jack, a lot with those pressures and the sacks, and it starts pre-snap. He has this cadence and this tendency, right? Watch him. It's his arm. Every time his arm goes down, his head goes down too. When his head goes down, guys start moving and guys start creeping on the back end. And either the offensive line or the quarterback isn't seeing that and getting a check-in in enough time. So they're getting the opportunity to time it up perfectly. And that's just like a cadence or a tell, you know. And Jack kind of corrected it a little bit towards, you know, third, fourth quarter, later on in third, fourth quarter of the game. But it's still there. It's something, it's like the leg kick with the quarterback, you know. You see the quarterback throw the leg up. A lot of times the head's going down right after it. It's, you know, a signal to the center saying, I'm ready for the football. So where's the quarterback's eyes have to be? Ready for the football. So, I mean, it's one thing that, you know, really want him to correct. In particular, Jack seems to be a little bit more comfortable, like throwing, not on the run, like a designed run, you know, get him outside, move the pocket, basically is what I'm trying to say. If we can
like a designed rollout or a naked
bootleg. Yeah. There was, I think, two of them where, I mean, he either took off with a run and he hit a guy, hit his receiver, but those are stuff that seems to get him. I don't know if it's like a, you know, throw your fastball kind of pitch or what, just to get him in rhythm, but that's stuff that, you know, he seems comfortable with, and I think would get him going a lot more. He had 3 balls that, you know, really bother me outside of those interceptions. And I mean, those interceptions, guys, they were bad, but the first one where he, you know, was trying to get in the honey hole is just not, you know, you got to see the corner's depth on that. that was a hell of a play by the corner. I mean, to bait him into throwing that in a way, it's just you see it open for a split second, but it's that split second that corner wants you to think it's open, and it's not there. So that's something that I wish he would have looked off of. The one in the goal line, guys. I don't mean that was inexcusable football. Like, just eat it. Just eat it at that point. And he's been notorious for doing that the past however many games, like trying to throw something. He did it this past game twice, I think, and it's cost us a penalty 2 times now. So
it's horrible decision making. As a 5th-year senior, 4th-year senior, you can't be doing that. You can't, especially when the game second half, you're coming down from, trying to bounce back and be in a good spot to win the football game. It's inexcusable. And the penalties of these flicks when he's going down for sacks, like,
just eat it.
I mean, it's just infuriating. It's infuriating. It makes.
I mean, you're going to lose yards regardless. Why do you have to lose more yards?
Yeah, and I'm sure Brian and Jeff are in that quarterback. I'm sure you heard it on the sideline, but I mean, I guarantee you, it's at least trying to get corrected. Not to get on him, but he had 3 balls like I was getting to that he missed. The wheel to Jaws that could have been 6 on the post wheel. He had a dig route to Chris Bell. That he missed. That was one that could have got us first down and kept stuff going. And he had the out route to Thrash that he also missed. Who you never know what's happening if you get the ball to Jamari Thrash on the edge. He had one to the one to Mo Turner as well that he missed. Those are balls you gotta complete. Those are ones that we really need. But what I do like about Jack is I love how he responds to adversity. I know, he might be making these poor decisions sometimes, but right now I can live with it because we're winning. But I think if we get in a bind and say, I mean, it showed last game too. Like, really, when we were tied, he makes a poor decision on the goal line. He's not going to sit there and pout, throw his helmet, get in a shitty attitude or anything. He took his ass ripping, got right back on the saddle, came back out there to play more football. And I mean, he's a good quarterback. He just needs to make better decisions. It's there. We all can see it. Whenever he sees blitzes on time, whenever he is getting his receivers the ball on time, whenever he has confidence in his throws, that throw to Mo Turner looked like a shot put throw. Like, he was not confident in throwing that ball. I mean, it's just little things. I'm confident with Jack Plummer at quarterback. I personally don't know if we win that game with last year's quarterback taking the helm, just because, I mean, and I get he adds a different dynamic with running the ball, but I'd also like to see Jack kind of utilize his legs every once in a while. He did it with the read option that he had with Jaws. He took off for a decent little run. And I'm not saying like take off every time. I thought the quarterback draw play was one of the worst plays you could check into of all time with Jack Plummer. Do y'all remember that one from the game of last week? That was another one thing that bothered me with Jeff was the couple times that we did like a check with me play. It seemed like the play we were checking into was just not it. Like, no offense to Jack, we do not need to be checking into a draw play for him to go run the ball. And we checked into another run. No, we checked into a pass play. But the pass play only had 3 people going out on the route. Everybody else is in pass pro.
Yeah, like, the first 4 games of the season, that's something that we've kind of lauded Jeff Brohm for is his play calling, whether it be like a super creative trick play or something, or just like out the flow of the game. And this is the first game of the year where I think most people who are watching can say, what the fuck was that half the time when it came to the play calling? Exactly. Some of it just didn't make sense.
Exactly. I mean, and like I said, I think, if he can get his confidence under him this game early on, and, I don't know if it's his confidence that gives him the thought that he can make more happen with less whenever stuff is going wrong. Sometimes stuff just goes wrong on the football field and you got to live to fight another down.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope he starts getting that in his head.
It's been a real battle of the fans trying to not bench everybody. Like, with the quarterback, they're just bench him. Like, just next guy up. But in reality,
there's no next guy.
That doesn't happen in any other level of football besides college football. Like, that doesn't happen in the NFL. That doesn't, I mean, unless you're, a team that sucks and you have Josh Dobbs, for example, as the Cardinals. Like, They haven't pulled him yet, but that's an example, right? Like you have a quarterback who like he's not the quarterback. It's not Mac Jones for the Patriots. Great example. Which, by the way, hey, Bill, let's go ahead and give Malik on that active squad. Bailey Zappi's not it. We all know it. Give Malik a chance. Tank in the process because Malik's not an NFL quarterback yet. Like he can probably run and do crazy things, and you might win a game or two, but you can tank in the process. So back to the game notes. Let's talk defense because this is where. Not only was this a defensive game, like a slobber knocker, this would get Jim Ross really hot and heavy.
Let me get there because there's another part. There's another part of the offense that, like, we have it on the show sheet is the lack of the run game in that, and it was a lot of times it was caused by us running the pulling scheme. We're pulling guards, pulling tackles, and people like that. And NC State played it perfectly to where they would follow that guy. They would just crash it down immediately. So as soon as they saw that guard's hips open up to go to the other side, that defensive tackle is sticking his nose right on that guard's hip and following him straight to the ball because that guy's going to take you to the football every time, 10 times out of 10. That, helped NC State stop us on the run, and we just also didn't have any point of attack at all. Basically it for the lack of the run game, Jacob. I think that they just need to establish more of a point of attack. NC State was definitely establishing more of a point of attack. I wanted more downhill running. I'm not a big fan of the east and west style of stuff that we were doing. Maybe inside zone, more power stuff, something that could get Jaws and Mo and Isaac just more straight downhill. I think that's what would have suited us better for that. Now onto the defense because that's where the whole thing was won this past weekend. What do you guys think about the defense to start?
I just got to tell you guys, I love TJ Quinn and Jalen Alderman. I just love them. They're so fun to watch, man. They play with just such downhill aggression. TJ Quinn, like he does not care if you're 6'9", 295,000 pounds. He's gonna wrap your legs up and tackle you in a form tackle. Like he is as solid of a tackling linebacker as I can remember us having in the last 10 years. He just doesn't miss tackles. So that's how I feel.
No.
I love
that whole defense is really good at tackling. I mean, sure, the defense isn't what this team is known for, but I think, and yeah, the defense has had some quarters and moments where they've looked really not great, but overall, the defense so far is a lot better than what I thought they're going to be. And to your point, Jacob, I mean, I remember heading into the season thinking, yeah, the linebacking room is going to be unquestionably the sore spot of this defense. And I mean, I'm not going to go as far as say it's a strength, but TJ Quinn's looked really damn good and is flying all over the place. Jalen Alderman is laying the hit stick any chance he get. I mean, that hit on Bradley Rosner, whew,
beautiful.
That was rough.
Beautiful. I was gonna run to North Carolina if they called targeting on that.
Right, I was so terrified that's what was coming.
No, and the one they did call was complete assault. I mean, that was one of the worst hits I've ever seen in my entire life. I mean, gee, throw the kid in jail. But we saw a lot of Nats and ETs. So like a Nat is nose and tackle. So that's where you saw who got the sack on that. I want to say Ashton did on his, where you'd see two defensive linemen go down and crash, and he takes a big loop all the way around, and he goes actually around like two gaps over to the right to go get the sack, which is something different that we haven't really been doing a lot of. At least I don't think. That's the first time I've been paying attention to it. Guys are mugging up in the gaps a lot. For me, it was really nothing that different that we were doing on defense. It's just shit was finally getting home. I think that also plays a hand into how poorly Brennan Armstrong was playing. Like Brennan Armstrong being not that good, not navigating the pocket well. If you set that tone early, if you get that stuff going in the first quarter, the psyche of the quarterback, his mind, he is thinking that's coming the whole game. That's coming the whole game. And it helps out, too, whenever we have good coverage on the back end. DBs played their asses off this past week as well. I thought the entirety of the defense played their asses off.
Yeah. And both of Armstrong's picks that came off of pressure. I mean, his first one came off a 6-man blitz. And that second one, it was a 4 delayed 5-man rush. Yeah. But Des just whipped that guard. And Armstrong just kind of chucked it because he had nothing else to do because Des was right there. And just threw a lob straight to Quincy Riley. So as good as the coverage looked, I mean, it was partially assisted by the fact that the D-line was actually getting home with some consistency.
It all played like they played together exactly how football is supposed to be played, didn't it?
Complimentary football.
Complimentary football. It's crazy how that shit works out. But Jacob, I'm sure what gave you the most pride of the entire day is Ramon per year sack. Just seeing Eastern High School, your Eastern Eagles stand up. His sack, it was very sneaky. It was an ET stunt, so the end crashed down. But the way that Ramon played it, usually you fire off into your guy and you establish the point of attack right there, and he comes down and crashes and you loop off of him. But he, one hand extended, kind of just delayed right there, and and even when he looped around, it was more. You could tell he was trying to keep contained. And it was like oh shit, I have a clear lane to the quarterback. So you have a couple plays whenever you're playing football, fellas, where, and it doesn't happen. It happens a couple times throughout the season where you're like, oh shit, there is a straight lane to the quarterback. That might not be my job to like go get him, but if I go get him right here, like that's a sack. I mean, the coach isn't gonna be mad about a sack. So I guarantee you that's what. And watch his feet during that play. It's so funny. It was like an oh shit, I better go moment. And turned into a sack. But for me,
it's like somebody whispered to him before the game that Trinity High School was a real football program compared to Eastern, and he got real angry about that. He didn't like that.
I'm sure that's what it was.
He didn't like that, man.
At the end of the day, fellas, a win's a win.
5-0 is 5-0.
Ugly as fuck.
It is.
It was so ugly. I mean, there were opportunities, like so many opportunities. I'm not blaming Jack for the lack of productivity out there because there's so many different angles you could look at. We don't know the play call. We don't know if Brian Hudson called the protection to slide left whenever it should have slid right, and Jack was thinking it was going to slide right, and it didn't. We just see a sack, right, and we just see the ball out. But there were a lot of instances out there that were correctable by Jack, to where if he would have just recognized it early on, there would have been a quick fix with it.
Yeah, and it seemed like. And I think he may have touched on this after the game, or maybe maybe I listened to a different press conference. Like it was a different game altogether, and I'm just assuming it was Louisville.
You listened to John Plummer.
Yeah, Jake Plummer. Talk about mushrooms. That's what I listened to. No, but it just there was just something about him at the line. I mean, he checked the play. I have not seen a Louisville quarterback check a play maybe since Brian Brohm, like straight up. I mean, no quarterback has had the freedom at the line of scrimmage to check a play down, to call, you might call an audible on a protection. You might call an audible on a, but it seemed like he killed plays several times and they would run.
To your point, Jacob, I'm sorry to cut you off. To your point, we did check plays with Satterfield while I was signaling, but it would always be either a hard count or it would be like hey, Vince, grab Malik, get Malik so we can check out of this play. It always came from the coach. Like, yeah. I really, to your point, I think those were Jack.
Yeah. And there's a couple of plays where I think he said post-game, what I was getting to is I think he said that NC State countered their check. Like he would check and then NC State would check. Again, maybe I listened to the wrong podcast. I had a wrong interview. I have no idea, but somebody talked about that. I thought it was Jack Plummer. Maybe not. But overall, at the end of the day, I think the thing I'm struggling with is that this team at times looks like a team that could go 10-2. Like they have a lot of areas where they're not weak. In this game, they struggle to run the football, and they would have been fine otherwise, but they constantly committed penalties. They threw bad passes. They dropped passes. Let's not give the receivers, the night off. Several of them dropped passes, and I don't mean to call anybody out, but from the offensive line, Renato Brown, 2 penalties in the fourth quarter for two different things, from a holding penalty to, I think a personal foul penalty. So there's little things that they can clean up to make them better. And when you head into this weekend, it's a game where you have to click 3 phases, 4 quarters, every Jeff Brohm cliche, like they all have to be very much prevalent this weekend. And that's what makes this all so interesting is Louisville's good enough to beat Notre Dame. We're going to get into the numbers. Their numbers aren't that much. They're not different. Like Louisville has not played the competition that Notre Dame has played, but Louisville's numbers are very similar. They're a similar team overall. And we're going to talk about that here in a second. The quarterback situation, all of it. Sack King update. What do we got? Not a lot. We got some consistency. We got a new entry, and that's really it. I'm excited because the new entry has some personal relevancy to me, but overall, the Louisville team from a pass rush standpoint, we're still getting there. We're still QB hits, QB hurries, TFLs. Like, we're still counting those. And so over the weekend, not a lot of movement. We get a +1 from Ashton, who really is taking a sizable lead on this thing at 5 sacks on the season. And then we get an entry from Ramon Purier. So I love that. Eastern High School well represented in the sacking update, but a slow go so far. So it's looking like Ashton Gelati is really going to have somebody put on a heroic effort down the back half of the season to catch him. But hey, we're pacing here for a good season. We might not be catching it. You see it from last year, but we're pacing ahead. 5 sacks for Ashton. Team's got 8. We're getting there. Hopefully we will continue to move forward, and the sack update will be better off next week. We'll see. We'll get there in predictions. But for now, not much movement. Ashton Gelati is your man. We'll jump into a commercial break, and on the other side, like I said, we'll talk about what this game looks like and what Louisville can do to pull off the upset. And if you are smart, you will go and you will get prepared now that it is legal in this state to bet that this weekend. Louisville, sports betting is officially live in Kentucky. Sports betting sites are offering new bettors tons of awesome bonuses to get started. And we here at State of Louisville and from the Pink Seats podcast have made it super easy and put all of our favorite promos that we've used this weekend in a list for you. Check out all our best sportsbook promos at bit.ly/State of Louisville so you can maximize your first bets. Each time you sign up for one of the promotions, you are directly supporting our podcast, which I thank you. Thank you so much for doing that. And we want to keep doing that so that we can continue to bring you great content. So if you're looking to sign up for any of the new Kentucky sports books, head over to bit.ly/State of Louisville for our top offers. That's bit.ly/State of Louisville. Offers are only available for new customers who are 18 plus, 21 plus for selected sports books. Physically must be present in Kentucky. Please gamble responsibly. If you and a loved one has gambling problems, call 1-800-GAMBLER. We'll be right back on the other side to talk about Notre Dame.
And we're back here from the other side of a commercial break. Jacob just phenomenal ad read for us again. Matt, for me, the biggest storyline coming into this game has got to be Sam Hartman. And
absolutely.
It has to be, man. We talked a little bit with Reggie on his mindset of a quarterback potentially coming in to, back into the stadium after having a game like that. For you, what are your thoughts on Sam Hartman coming into this game, knowing, the turnover situation last time he was here?
See, I've even before the season started, I was curious to see how Sam Hartman would look in an offense that's not.
Well, he looks like Jesus.
I can't lie. He looks phenomenal. I'm secure in my sexuality, but I've watched a couple Notre Dame games this year, and every time they show him without his helmet, I'm like, damn, he looks good.
He's meant to play quarterback at Notre Dame.
Right. But anyways, I was curious as to how Sam Hartman would look in a not hokey offense where he has that weird mesh read that Dave Clawson likes to look. And yeah, we have our answer. He looks pretty damn good. I don't have the stats right in front of me, but I mean, if anyone's watched a Notre Dame game this year, they can tell you that, yeah, Sam Hartman, he can sling it. He's got poise. He's got command. He can display the arm strength.
He's already thrown for 1,200 yards on the year, 70% completion rate, 14 to nothing.
No picks,
a touchdown to interception rate. So we'll see how that goes on Saturday, buddy.
Yeah, we shall see. But yeah, no, if you're like Reggie said, yeah, you remember the last time you went to a venue and you had a bad game there. I don't know if Sam Hartman's going to be the kind of guy who overly presses to try and correct that. I think he's just going to go out there and just play his game. But it's going to be imperative for the Louisville front seven and the defensive line or whomever it is in that defense to just get after him, get after where the ball's going, flock to the ball, swarm to the ball, whatever football cliche you want to use. Get that early momentum going and don't get behind the sticks early, because Notre Dame, yeah, they have a loss to the name already, but Notre Dame is absolutely the kind of team they can blow Louisville out if they're not careful.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, that's the caveat with this. I mean, we could either come in here and do a really big upset, or we could come in here and, get the brakes beat off of us. Watching that game Saturday, not Louisville game, but the Duke Notre Dame game, just watching the performance of both those quarterbacks. I mean, it's fun. It's fun to watch, but for me, I was thinking both of these teams are beatable, even with their quarterbacks there. They're not world beaters. They're not Andre the Giant over here standing 6 foot whatever, 300 some pounds. It's just a football team, and a lot like our quarterback. If you pressure him, he's not comfortable. Neither one of them were. Duke's quarterback and Sam Hartman.
I mean that game to me kind of said more about the defenses of those two teams than anything. Because I mean, I've seen a couple Duke games before, and I know Vince, you don't want to admit it.
I don't watch Duke
but
games.
Duke's good. Duke's really good, and they were held scoreless in the first half. Riley Leonard really damn good, and they've got some solid pieces on offense, and they could not do a damn thing. I mean, Notre Dame, their offense with Sam Hartman, Audric Estime, that offensive line, they get all the headlines because offense always does. But I mean, that Notre Dame defense is scary, especially in that secondary. I mean, Riley Leonard and several other quarterbacks that they faced this year. I mean, Kyle McCord, Ohio State has the best wide receiver core in all of college football, and they put up 17 points? That's it, something like that.
So that's what makes me nervous. I think I'm gonna have to put a lot on Jeff this game to really schematically get guys open. I mean, it's going to be huge for him. He's going to really, as Jacob would like to say, going to have to be in his coaching bag for this one to dial some guys up, because we've seen it in these past couple of games that Jack doesn't have the consistent ability yet to throw guys open. He did it a couple times in the NC State game, had one pass that was beautiful before the guy's head even broke out, the ball was out of his hands.
Well, first of all, Sam Hartman has completely developed into Flynn Rider from Tangled. I don't know if you all are familiar. I have a 5-year-old daughter, so that's all I can think of every time I see him is that he looks like Flynn Rider. But look, man, when you're a 7th-year quarterback, 8-year quarterback, and you play for Notre Dame, like, I expect a certain level of excellence, and he has certainly lived up to it. It's a new look for him. Like, seeing him under center was really interesting this past weekend against Duke, and it has been all season. But you still see them run some of that, that RPO getting hit. He's not running as much, but you still see it from time to time where they're utilizing that strength of his. But at the same time, he's not going to turn the ball over. You're not going to make him do that unless you have Yaya Diaby and Yasir Abdullah coming at him, which we'll see. Unfortunately, that's not going to be the case this weekend. It's certainly going to, continue to be, a situation where you got to get after the quarterback by committee. But I feel like Sam Hartman is not in for what he was last year, and that scares me, in terms of getting pressure and making him uncomfortable. I
was looking at it like both sides are improved. Like, Sam is much. I mean, this defense, what they did our defense is pretty stout, in my opinion. I just, is it better than last year's defense?
It's just not as havoc producing.
Yeah,
no, but it seems more maybe a bit more consistent.
Yes,
top to bottom. Like, not
it feels
just
like the defense is better, but I'm afraid to say that because I don't know if numbers are going to match up very well to that statement.
The numbers suggest that they're better, but I don't think this defense from the eye test, it doesn't sometimes look like it's better because there's not as many sacks, there's not as many picks, there's not as many fumbles, there's not many tackles for loss. Yeah. I mean, the last game they had 8 tackles for loss, so the defense certainly passed the eye test last weekend. But compared to last year's defense, which was doing that with regularity in the second half, I mean, to be fair, it's hard to live up to a defense that literally led off college football in sacks. So.
Yeah, man, it's tough to follow that up. And they're not there yet. Like they have Ashton, and when they're healthy, they have multiple guys that can be, impactful, but none of them yet by numbers are getting to the quarterback enough where Notre Dame, who has a pretty good offensive line. I mean, in terms of sacks allowed this season, they are allowing 1.2 sacks a game, 24th in the country. You're not going to get a ton of pressure. So you have to land, you have to be able to get home and finish in order to have an impact against them. Yeah. And that is been a worry so far. I mean, when you look at this game from top to bottom, this has to be Louisville's best game of the season. And I know that seems like an easy thing to say, but when you look at each game, Louisville's improved in some areas and they've taken a step back in some areas. They've done better on third down in some. They've taken setbacks in penalties, all of that. And so you need this game to be your best game played yet. And I am not sure that we're there yet. Like if this game was in 4 or 5 weeks, maybe by the time the end of the season came around, Louisville will be playing their best football. But I'm still not at the point where I think, from what I've seen, that top to bottom, they're ready to go without playing, obviously without elevating and playing a near perfect game or playing one of the best games they've played. It's going to be a tall feat to go out and beat Notre Dame. And look, when you look at Notre Dame's schedule this year, they have a couple of cupcakes.
Their schedule's fucking
loaded. it is, but like the next couple of weeks for them are just bonkers, like just ridiculous. But they open up with some cupcakes and Navy and Tennessee State. Don't really learn anything. They give up 6 points in 2 weeks. Like that doesn't really tell us much of anything. NC State 45-24. That game is, NC State is not great as we've, kind of seen so far. And they struggled with Notre Dame. And then Ohio State and Duke, both of those games are one possession games that go down to the wire. And Notre Dame could be seriously looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-0 at this point. And instead they're 5-1 by that 3-point difference against Ohio State. And so you get to where we are, and it just, I don't know. Like I struggle with this because I think Louisville has a good defense. I think Louisville has a very dynamic offense. They can protect the quarterback when they want. And when they have this season, Jack has put up numbers, but we've also seen them give up sacks last weekend. We've seen Jack make mistakes, throw the ball in the dirt, throw the ball way over a receiver's head and be intercepted. And this is a top 10 team. Like this is a team that will make you pay for that and put points on you fast. And so for Louisville, there's no margin of error in this game. If you want to win this game, you want to be taken seriously as a all ACC type of team, a team that can make noise, maybe crash the party of the college football playoff, maybe go to Charlotte, play for the ACC championship, maybe play in a New Year's Six bowl. You got to compete in this game. Like you have to. And they have the pieces. Like Jamari Thrash, better than any wide receiver on Notre Dame's team, for sure. Like he's the best player skill position wise in this game. Jawar Jordan, don't get me wrong, Audric Esme is dude's a beast. Like he is fantastic, but Jaws is dynamic. I'm not saying he's better.
I think Audric Esme might be better, man.
They cancel themselves out. They're really good. Like really
well,
good.
To be fair, yeah, Audric Esme has the luxury of running behind probably one of the top 3 offensive lines in football, because I was going through the depth chart on Notre Dame earlier today. There was one guy in the O-line too deep who was under 6'3" and 305. One guy.
Yeah, and the numbers show and what they've given up from a sacks allowed standpoint. Like, they don't give sacks up. They don't give tackles for loss up. That's just not who they are.
This is where I think Notre Dame is at. They're sitting there with one loss, and they are fighting like hell to continue, the talk of Notre Dame should be in the college football playoffs, right? I mean, that there's no doubt about that. There's 0 conference championship they're playing for, nothing like that. And, after the game last week against Duke, I think they're starting to feel the pressure a little bit. I guarantee you, they felt all that pressure last week with game day being there and everybody talking about how good Duke is and everything, even though they're not. And I just think Notre Dame is it's only a matter of time. It's a matter of who is going to beat them, in my opinion. Who's going to be that team to knock them off? And Louisville has that opportunity this weekend, obviously.
Yeah, and there's that popular saying of like, I forget what they say, but
seize
like
the moment, carpe diem.
No, but like Louisville's due, like they're due to beat Notre Dame, right? The last 2 games have been 2019 wasn't necessarily close, but Louisville's up 14-7.
We should have won that game. There were so many plays in that where
right. And then obviously you should have won in 2020, like that game.
Oh yeah,
you take one of those picks that you drop and you pick the ball off, Rajay or Kentrell Clark. I'm talking to you two. Like, I can say it now, right? Because Clark's getting hurdled in the NFL, making millions. Like, it is what it is. But like, you catch one of he got hurdled over the weekend, dude. He got hurdled by Christian McCaffrey on a touchdown. It was nasty.
Well, it's Christian McCaffrey.
Well, yeah, if I'm going to get hurdled by somebody.
I'm not saying that it doesn't matter. He got hurdled, but he's still making millions. He gets to go home and lay his head on a very expensive pillow. So I think he's just fine. Right, exactly. Satin sheets, baby. But point being, they should have won that game. Like, that was Ian Book played one of the worst games of his career. It was 12-9 or something like that. Like, it was just stupid how close of a game that was. So this is a game where it's been building, new coach, new atmosphere, new will to win, new desire to win, new ability to conquer adversity and win. And so for Louisville, that's why I'm telling you all, I'm so torn on where to go with this game. Like, my heart says it's time. We're ready. We're primed. It's 65,000 people. We're going crazy. Like, there's going to be so many people in the beer line that no one could get beer. So we just might as well sit in our seats and cheer. That type of environment, right? Like, that's how it's going to go this weekend. We're going to be in awe of what Cardinal Stadium can be at 65,000 people. But at the end of the day, can Jack Plummer make the throws? Can the defense get the pressure? Can the defense make the tackles? Can the cornerbacks be sticky? Like, can you not commit penalties, not turn the ball over, things that you've done so far? If you can, you're primed to win this game and be ready to go. Like, let's jump into top 15, top 10 at that point. Top 15 probably more likely. Like, let's be realistic now. It's time to go. It's time to go conquer. And like this, a win against Notre Dame changes the dynamics of what you think Louisville can be. In our heart, I think we all think Louisville can win this game, but if we're being realistic, I'm not sure how many of us are going to pick Louisville to win this game. But if you do win this game, there's no denying that you're not a good football team. You are a top 15, top 20 team. Your schedule's set up over the next couple of weeks to build off of this and really go crazy as you get into the back half where Miami and Kentucky are. This is a game that if you win, you're ready. But at the same time, fellas, do you have confidence that Louisville's not going to commit dumb penalties, that Jack's not going to make plays when pressure is in his face? And that they can consistently get sacks and get pressure. I just am not there for those three things. I'm not there yet.
Are you saying yes or no?
I'm saying no. Louisville can't.
I'm saying I don't know. Like, that's how I feel about the team. Like, I'm like, I could see it happening.
Correct.
Not happening.
I have the confidence
50, that they right in the middle. I haven't even written a score down.
Yeah, I have the confidence that they can make the plays because they have shown it at times. They've just been too inconsistent across the board, though. That's the main problem. They haven't played a full 60 minutes against anyone yet.
How would they do it this weekend? That's the thing. Like,
it'd be a hell of a revelation if the first full 60-minute game they play is against freaking Notre Dame.
Everybody thought it would have been crazy, and
I'm not saying it's not possible.
Whenever we did it against Florida State,
right?
Yeah.
Let's go out here and win 62-10. I'm here for it.
It can just click for whatever reason. Yeah. Sometimes on any given, they say on any given Sunday, well, on any given Saturday, shit can click. And this.
You're right. You're right.
Where shit can click.
Absolutely right.
And it's not like we're sitting here with a team that's like freaking 0-5. We're 5-0, so you can kind of feel that. I think that it just feels too good, man. There's too many Catholics in town that cheer for UVO, praying for this. Too many Catholics. Our Catholics outweigh your Catholics.
Yeah, can our Catholics overact their Catholics? Like, they have, I
don't care about your national brand.
We have a very strong Catholic
community. This is so sacrilegious.
Can we out Catholic them? I feel pretty confident we can.
I guarantee we can throw a better fish fry than Notre Dame.
Yeah, man. Their fish fry is going to be lame. Like, we're going to party and keep, like, that's just how it's going to go. No doubt.
Yeah.
Our Catholic beats their Catholic 10 out of 10 times.
Is this Catholic versus Catholics? What is it?
Cards versus Catholics.
I love it. So interesting, though, right? So on the note of Jack Plummer and the pressure, obviously this past weekend, what NC State did was load the box up to stop the run, but then load the box up and blitz out of it. They blitzed 5+ guys multiple times. And those stunts are what caused some of those pressures and some of those struggles for Jack. They asked Marcus Freeman about that in his media availability today, and I thought his answer was very interesting and very revealing as to what they think. You guys know that my philosophy with coaches is to read between the lines. They're not telling you what they say in the words, but if you read between the lines, they are telling you what they mean. Marcus Freeman today said, it's hard to confuse him talking about Jack Plummer, but we're going to try. We're going to try to give him some different looks, but it's hard to confuse him because he's seen everything. I read between the lines in that, and he's saying he's a fifth-year quarterback. He's seen it, like coverage-wise, draw it on a board. We're good. Blitz him in the game, and it's a different story. We're going to try that. We're going to try to confuse him. We're going to try to pressure him because we don't think as a football team that's a top 10 team that he's good enough to beat us. Like that's what Marcus Freeman is saying in between the lines there. And I think that that's going to be the really interesting thing to watch because Notre Dame, let's just call a spade. Like Notre Dame's defense is good, but they're 92nd in the country in sacks per game. You know what I mean? So like, are they really going to pressure Louisville? Like they're big, 340, 350 pound defensive linemen. These are SEC sized guys, but are they really going to blitz? Are they really going to be able to get after it? This isn't a scrub offensive lineman. Brian Hudson said he was recruited by Notre Dame both times. That shows you we have the boys to go up front and compete with them. But are we aligned? Are we moving in lockstep? Are we committed to the grind, committed to the discipline of not committing penalties? That's right. I don't know. Like until I see it and I'm wrong, I don't know. I've been wrong too many times thinking Louisville's going to go beat the Ole Misses of the world and the Alabamas of the world. Like until they do it, I just no one, not especially definitely not the leader of the team didn't say that. But I believe this team is going to go into it thinking they're going to win, prepared to do so. But does that play out in the 60 minutes where in between the lines, that's what's counted and that's what comes out on the other side on paper?
Man, they better come out ready to just punch a motherfucker in the mouth.
Look, man, it's up to Reggie pressing that train horn to get us hyped, man. Reggie's got a real big task on his hands. 65,000 people. What do you do to get them hyped? Like I told him, take your shirt off, dude. Like
I'm bringing beers out there for sure, and that'll be the last time I do the train horn.
Yeah, if I got the opportunity to do that, I would be like Michael Scott in the episode where he goes to the corporate meetings and he can't really understand what he needs to do when he's introduced. Is it the finger guns? Is it the spin? Like, what is it that gets the crowd going? That's how I would be if I was Reggie. Like, I would be ready to figure that out, do some deep science research because you get 65,000 people going. Notre Dame commits a lot of penalties for being Notre Dame. Like I know we think of them as being perfect in every way possible, and maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I just made that up again.
Because they're a football team.
Because they're Catholics.
Yeah, they don't sin. In football, sinning is a penalty. Penalty is a sin. They're 98th in the country in penalties. They commit almost as many penalties. They commit more penalties than Louisville does on a per game basis. So this isn't the team of Notre Dame that's going to be, disciplined in that regard, but they don't turn the football over. So they have it that way. Sam Hartman, 14 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Like that is extremely impressive.
And they made Freeman on the hot seat if he loses this.
You mean he's just a hot guy sitting in a seat? Like, yeah. He's just a good-looking guy sitting down. No doubt. That's Marcus Freeman. No, he's not on the hot seat.
No, he's not on the
There
hot
will
seat.
be questions because, though, like if you look at the schedule, I talked about this for Notre Dame. Like, it's crazy how you would want to continue to be an independent. Like, do you want to continue to play number 9 USC, 25 Louisville? In a couple of weeks, they have Clemson. Or do you want to play Louisville schedule and play Boston College? Some of these teams in the ACC, you want on your schedule versus a number 9 USC. And if they lose to Louisville, they're done. Like their season in terms of playoff shot.
They lose to us.
Yeah. Play number 6 Ohio State, number 17 Duke. Does Louisville get overlooked here? You know what I mean? Like they got number 9 USC next weekend. I mean,
especially since they got USC and they're facing the reigning Heisman Trophy winner. I mean, they're seeing how poo-poo that USC defense is. So
no shot. Sam Hartman sitting over there thinking this is a cupcake game overlooking this shit. If he's any type of competitor, he's had this one circled since Sunday of last year for, whatever team he was going to be.
Or whenever he entered the portal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at the time he was at Wake and we probably still would have played Wake. I don't know how the conference was lining up after that, but whatever.
It's fair.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's jump into the segment that was just such a hit last week. I got so many people texting me, calling me, Matt's the best. We need more. And we got a lot.
Really, people were hitting me up like I didn't know Matt was that tall. I didn't know, like, Matt.
Matt's favorite color in third grade was blue. That's a crazy bad stat. This week
We're
we
actually
bring
saying
back,
we should lead with that.
we bring back Matt's stats, and we have a liner for it this week. So here in a second, when I stop talking, we will have a liner that leads into the segment. That's how you know it's official. So Matt, take us through this week's Matt stats.
Drop what you're doing and listen up. It's Matt Stats with Matt McGavick.
All right, I know, Jacob, you kind of made it a point to say, yeah, Notre Dame's defense, they're good statistically, but they don't get a lot of pressure, don't generate a lot of sacks, tackles for loss. But I mean, with how well their secondary is playing, they kind of don't have to, because their secondary is number 9 in the nation in passes defended, which is interceptions and pass breakups. They've got 6 picks and 23 pass breakups in 6 games. So that's they're pretty. Their defensive backs are pretty active when it comes to getting their hands on balls heading to receivers. And going from the Notre Dame secondary to their offense, I think a huge point of emphasis in this game will be through Audric Estime, their running back, because he, like you said earlier, Jacob, he's a big boy and he's really good. I mean, yeah, they've had Notre Dame's had one more game than most of everyone in the nation, but he's currently the leader in rushing yards. And a big part of that is because he's number 2 in all of college football in missed tackles force with 36. But an interesting counter to this matchup with Audric Estime is that Louisville is one of the better tackling teams in college football right now. According to Pro Football Focus, they've got an 80 tackle grade, which is, as I said last week, 60 is average, 70 is above average. So 80 is pretty good. In fact, they're tied for 19th for the best tackle grade and 13th in the Power 5 in terms of tackle grade. And shifting to the Louisville side of things, I know we made a lot of hay about how Jack Plummer has to perform. Honestly, I think the onus is probably a little on the offensive line, not just in terms of holding their ground and keeping Jack Plummer upright, but being able to bulldoze open more holes for the running backs, because Jack Plummer, off of play action, phenomenal. In fact, breaking it down, he is 36 for 51, which is a 70.6% completion rate for 692 yards. 9 of his 11 touchdowns have come off of play action. Of course, he's also thrown 2 interceptions in that span, but most of his scoring has come off of the play action. So in turn, Jaws has to get more involved and has to have more success, which in turn means the offensive line has to get more push at the point of attack. And then kind of building off of that with a Plummer stat, we've kind of noticed, like, just the eyes say that when Plummer gets pressure, he's not been the greatest. And the stats, they back that up. Jack Plummer against pressure, courtesy of Pro Football Focus, he's 11 for 33, which is 32.5% for 193, a touchdown, and 3 of his 6 picks have come against pressure. So in turn, the offensive line has to do a better job of standing their ground and keeping a clean pocket. A lot of this game will start in the trenches, whether that's Louisville attacking through the air, Louisville attacking through the ground. And then my last stat of the night, going back over to the Notre Dame side of the field with Sam Hartman. Something that I actually didn't expect diving through the stats, because it didn't really catch my eye a lot when I watched the Notre Dame games myself, is that Sam Hartman is actually tied for the 3rd most touchdowns in the nation on throws of 20 yards or longer, with 8. The only Power 5 quarterbacks who have more long touchdowns on passes of 20 yards or more are LSU's Jaden Daniels with 11 and Caleb Williams with 10. So in this matchup, not only is the secondary is going to have to be on their P's and Q's, but more specifically the safeties. And I know Cameron Kelly, he just won ACC Defensive Back of the Week, but Devin Neal is going to have to get involved. And I hate to say it, Devin Neal might need to step in for Josh Minkins on this one, because Minkins, he's been really up and down. And it seems like the safety area and the safety position has performed better when he's not on the field. And I hate to say that because he's a hometown guy and he's been with this program for a while. But Cameron Kelly and Devin Neal just look better right now. Plain and simple.
Yeah. I mean, best 11 always got to be out there on the field. That gives you the best opportunity to win. I mean, I'm anxious to see that matchup at the safety position. Cameron Kelly's quickly becoming one of my favorite players on the team, and I can't wait to have him on the show so I can be like, do we call you Cam or do we call you Ron? So,
Or they called him Cameron the whole broadcast.
well, I know he
last
doesn't go by
fall.
Cameron in the stadium. It's got to be Cam or Ron, one of the two.
I don't know, man. I'm a big fan of Cameron. We need to get some music playing like in the background. That's some Dipset from back in like the early 2000s. Every time he gets an interception, like just think of it. He gets the interception and they play the hit Dipset Cameron song with like the sample in the background. That's like, boy, boy. Like every time he gets a pick, like I would like it would be the old Super Mario song.
Just give us the reins one game.
I'm here for it. If they're listening, the marketing department needs to let From the Pink Seats podcast control the music. Just let me get that aux cord for one game.
Just for that one game.
If the button comes back broke, don't blame me.
Yeah, right. If Reggie breaks the button, it's definitely not my fault. All right, well let's transition into predictions coming off of those stats because I think that they help kind of lead into this. And if you're a eternal optimist and you want no negativity, at this point is where I would probably encourage you to turn things off. If you don't want to be in, and we're not negative, we're just keeping it realistic here. Like we can't predict. We're not going 12-0, at least maybe not. But in this segment, like when we're predicting it, it is not a haterade type of thing. It's just being real. So let's just keep it real. Let's just be realistic. I've got Notre Dame 27, Louisville 17. I just think that Louisville is in a spot where they are good enough to beat Notre Dame, but can they play for 4 quarters, 3 phases all the time? No, I'm not there yet. I think that they're going to give up pressure. I certainly don't think they're going to get a ton of pressure in this game. I worry about Audric Estime just wearing down a little bit of an undersized defense. I mean, Louisville's not necessarily like glaring undersized like it was several years ago, but when you look at a guy like TJ Quinn that played safety, Destel being a guy at nose tackle that's 5'11", 300 pounds, like some of these guys aren't Notre Dame sized defensive linemen, offensive linemen. I think that they're going to wear Louisville down over time. I still think Louisville's going to keep this game competitive. Up until maybe the end of the third, early fourth, but and it's only going to be a 10-point victory. But I just think Notre Dame wears Louisville down. And our second prediction to this is how many sacks. I think that's an important statistic for me in this game. How many sacks? And I have Louisville going with 2 sacks. So Louisville 17, Notre Dame 27, 2 sacks on the night for the defensive line, linebackers. What do you got, guys?
I've also got Notre Dame pulling this one out. This one's a little bit closer. I've actually got Louisville covering in this one. I've got the Irish coming out with a 28-24 win. I think Louisville only gets 1 sack in this one because, like I said earlier, Notre Dame's offensive line is huge. And the defensive line, while they're getting pressure, they haven't been getting home with consistency, with the exception of the NC State game. And Notre Dame's a lot better than NC State is. And it like you said, Jacob, it all boils down to the fact that we've yet to see this team play 60 minutes of consistent football or even just 3-phase football. I mean, even against Boston College, played great on offense, on special teams. Defense, kind of hit or miss. Against NC State, defense and special teams, fantastic. Offense, not great. And then you can chalk it up to all the other games too. And is Notre Dame going to be the game where Louisville clicks and all of a sudden plays consistent all 60 minutes, plays great in all 3 phases? Like Vince said, it could, very well could. Stranger things have happened. I don't foresee that happening in this game.
Well. Look where we find ourselves here again, fellas. You two picking the opposing team and me standing over here like Jon Snow in the Battle of the Bastards. Boys, I'm going with the Cards 31-21. I feel like we are going to come out, and this is going to be the one. This has to be the one. It's a statement game. It's a statement victory. I'm excited for it. I don't know what tells me that we're winning. Like I said a couple minutes ago, I haven't written the score down because my opinion on this team is that I will find a whole hell of a lot out about them this Saturday. And this is like the one where I'm like, all right, well, we're about to see how good y'all really are, whether we're going to be a 8-win or whether we could really do something special this year. And, I ain't counting the Brohms out. I've never counted the Brohms out my entire life, and I'm not going to start doing it now. So I'm going 31-21 with Sacks. We're gonna go with 2. I think there's gonna be 2 sacks.
All right.
And like you said, Vince, I mean, just wrapping up on this point, like an underrated storyline is that Brohm steps up for the big game, and he hasn't really had like a big game to step up for yet because the schedule was so easy to start the year. So if Brohm really does step up for the big game, this is going to be the opportunity to do so.
And this is a game, like, I guarantee you. Well, I mean, if they do anything, which I'm sure they do things better than how we did things with setting them inside the facility, but like they're scouting in June, July for this game. First 5 weeks of the season are scouted because you don't have any film. You're using film from last year a lot of the times, you know? So like you already got most of that shit done. So right now we're just putting polish, fondant on the outside of the damn cake with the past however many games of this season. And I don't want to I think it's a big deal that Sam Hartman's coming back in here with with those interceptions and turnovers, man. Like it just reminds me of like, I don't know, like Happy Gilmore on the green, like having to go find his happy place and like, the dude's there and makes out with his mom. Like that's what I think Louisville is. You know what I mean? To him, like,
Yeah, and let's keep in mind, one of the things about Jeff Brohm at Purdue was the ability to pull off big wins. And that was number 2, Ohio State, number 2, Iowa, number 5, Michigan State, getting to the Big Ten championship last season. This is a coach who's not a stranger to winning games against teams that are ranked higher than him, that are favorited against him, that people count his team out time and time again. That continues to happen in the narrative of Jeff Brohm as a head coach. Is this the weekend for Louisville where he gets that first big monumental win under his belt, takes this program from being a team at 5-0 to being a team that's a legitimate contender in the conference? Those are what's at stake this weekend, and we'll find out. And I really hope to be wrong with my prediction. I hope that we come back next week and that Vince has jumped into the standings and tied us up because he's predicted the score correctly, and Matt and Presley and I have gotten it wrong. And that's just the way that hopefully it shakes out. But at this point, until we see it, the numbers and just the way that the eye tests have been, is Notre Dame is the team that at this point is the better team. But football's not played on paper. And if it was, I'd be playing football because I wouldn't get hurt. And so that's just what we have to keep in mind when we consider the way that things are going to go on Saturday. Exactly right, man. Bingo. You can't get hurt watching football. You can, and I have, but you on paper you can't. So
inside boo-boos.
That's right. All right, that's gonna wrap it up here on the show tonight. We can't thank you all enough for tuning in. It's been a fantastic 2-pack of shows this week. We can't thank Reggie Bonifon anymore for coming on and getting lessons on how to push the train horn, even though none of us have ever done it. We've watched, and when you watch something, I feel like what better way to tell somebody what to do than to give them your opinion. And that's what we did here tonight, fellas. So we've accomplished our goal. We got the fans hyped when Reggie rips his shirt off and is spinning it around like a maniac. You can thank the boys from the Pink Seats podcast for that. And hopefully that leads to a W. We're coming back here next weekend for a 6-0 football team. Boy, wouldn't that be? That would be incredible.
He's setting the tone for the entire game. That's a lot of responsibility right there. It's like the first hit on kickoff. You got to get a good one. Got to get a good look in.
That's right, man. That's right.
6-0. Can y'all imagine?
I can't. I'm hoping. And final at the buzzer prediction here. Presley Meyer, 34-27 Notre Dame. Louisville has 4 sacks. So he's going with the team getting some pressure. I'm here for it. The Sack King update next week will be lit. We get 4 sacks. I'm here for it. But hopefully that comes with a W. Subscribe anywhere you get your podcast from the Pink Seats podcast, at Pink Seats Pod, at U of L Report, Sports Illustrated, and at the State of Lou. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We will see you next week. Win or loss, we don't care. We'll be here. Hopefully that's with a W. Until then, go Cards.